Hi, everybody, and welcome to our week number 7 Twitch live stream for our research methods class. Uh, I hope everyone is doing well, hanging in there. I cannot believe that it is October in just a few days. It's hard to believe that we're already like 7 weeks into the semester and it's almost October. So I hope everyone is doing well and hanging in there as we kind of continue on through our class, getting close to the halfway point of the semester. We're getting there, just another week or two. Can you all hear me and see me okay before I keep going, just to make sure that everything's coming through? All right, if someone could let me know in the chat if everything is coming through. All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Marisol, for letting me know. Love it. Okay, so what I'd like to do is take a little bit of time and go over some stuff from last week. So we did have a discussion and a homework assignment, and I want to go over those a little bit because there were definitely a few points of maybe confusion, so I want to go over that. And then, of course, we'll look at what we have for this week, and I'll give you the extra credit question and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and head over to Canvas together. And if you scroll down, we are right here, right? Week number 7. This week ends in October, which is crazy. But let's go back 1 week to week 6 and talk a little bit about some of the materials from last week. Namely discussion 6 and homework assignment number 2. So I just want to make sure everyone is clear. There were definitely a couple of things that were kind of consistently missed on the discussion and the homework assignment. So I want to make sure you're feeling good about it. So with these two, what I wanted you to do was decide what kind of study it was and then kind of break down the elements. So this first study with Dr. Stevens and her research assistants was a correlational study, all right? They didn't manipulate anything. They were simply measuring. They looked at annual income and levels of self-esteem, right? And then the results showed that as income increased, self-esteem scores increased as well. So this was a correlational study, and the direction of the correlation was positive. As one increases, so does the other. Okay, so I was looking for that. And then from this study, can we conclude that income causes an increase in self-esteem? Why or why not? And because it's just a correlation, we cannot infer cause. So we can say that they are connected or related to each other, but not that one causes the other. So I was looking for that explanation. Some of you kind of missed the direction between the correlation of the variables. So again, positive is one goes up, the other goes up. Study number 2 was an experiment, right? So they randomly assigned participants to ingest kombucha and others to ingest a placebo. And then in this case, right, the independent variable that we're looking at is the kombucha. And the different levels of that would be people who ingested kombucha and those who ingested placebo, water flavored to taste like it and in that bottle, but not kombucha. The dependent variable is the list of letters, right? So we are looking to see the list of 10 letters to see what you could recall, and that was the dependent variable. So again, kind of looking at a couple of elements here. This was an experiment. We were looking at the independent and dependent variables. And then, yes, we can conclude that one caused the other because we deliberately manipulated and assigned participants to the different groups. So I just wanted to go over that really quickly. A lot of you did pretty well. But I did see like a couple of little things kind of left out here and there. And so I wanted to make sure that I went through it just a little bit. The same thing with the homework assignment. For the most part, I saw a lot of really good things on homework assignment number 2. But there were a couple of points that people struggled with. So let's go through homework number 2 really quickly together. The first question was looking at the 3 different types of validity. Right, so I was looking for you to tell me what Dr. Lopez, Dr. Shaw, and Dr. Jefferson were all looking to address. So Dr. Lopez was looking at external validity. So anytime we're talking about where did you get the sample, is this only true of these people or can we generalize it to everyone? That's going to be external validity. Dr. Shaw was asking questions about, was this an experiment or a correlation? What about third variables? What about this? What about that? Dr. Shaw was looking at internal validity kind of how are we defining things, how are we setting up the experiment, what kind of experiment are we doing? And then Dr. Jefferson is looking at the definitions, like the operational elements of what did these things mean? How did we operationalize it? So that is construct validity. So it was external, internal, and construct. So a lot of you got that correct. But I, again, wanted to go through it just for a few minutes just to make sure that each one of them was clear. You will definitely see a question very similar to this on the next exam. So if that didn't make sense, kind of review it a little bit more, the differences between internal, external, and construct validity. For the remaining 4, you were looking at identifying the independent variable and its levels, and then the dependent variable and how it's being operationalized. A lot of you, almost every single one of you, did a beautiful job identifying the independent and dependent variables. Where I saw people struggle a little bit was on identifying the levels of the independent variable. Another way of thinking about that are what are the different conditions of the independent variable. So for example, on number 2, a pharmacologist is testing whether a new anti-anxiety medication, MoodCore, will cause people to gain weight. To test this, she gives 100 people MoodCore for 1 month and 100 people a placebo drug. At the end of the month, she monitors any weight gain by having them weigh in on a scale. So for number 2, the independent variable is the drug, right? And the 2 conditions are taking MoodCore or a placebo. So those are the 2 different conditions or levels of the independent variable. The dependent variable is weight gain as measured by weighing in on a scale. Okay, so that would be number 2. For number 3, the independent variable is the inspirational tape, right? Whether or not they listen to a tape. And the different conditions are listening to an hour-long inspirational tape and an hour long of white noise. Those are the 2 levels. And then our dependent variable is mood, which is rated on a 10-point scale. For number 4, we're looking at drinking water before bed is our independent variable. And our 2 conditions that we have, right, we have 25 children who are given 2 glasses of water 2 hours before bed. And then we have ones that are prohibited from receiving liquid between 2 hours of their bedtime. Our dependent variable then is did they wet the bed or not, which is reported by the parents. Finally, the last one, we're looking at environmental temperature, right? And so we have a couple of different conditions here, right? So we have, a 70-degree room, a 90-degree room, and a 40-degree room. Okay, so we have 3 different conditions or levels of the independent variable. And then what we're looking at is the reaction time, which is measured in seconds. So again, just to make sure that all of those are clear, I know that it's getting a little harder and that's okay. If you struggled a little bit, you're not alone. A lot of people kind of had a little bit of a hard time here. But always ask yourself, what is the independent variable? And then what are the different conditions or levels of that variable? What are the different things that you could be exposed to? And then how is that affecting the dependent variable? And how are we measuring that? And those were 2 really big elements of this homework assignment and of the focus for this week, or last week, rather, I should say. So hopefully that feels pretty clear at this point. Again, a lot of you got it correct, but I just wanted to go over it a little for those of you who missed it. Are there any questions at all about last week before we move on to week number 7? Let me just wait 1 minute here just to make sure. Anyone have any other questions about the homework assignment or the discussion or anything from last week before we move forward? I'm going to wait just a second since you're usually about 30 seconds behind me just to check. And then we'll go from there and we'll talk about week number 7, which is this week. So nothing so far. If you think of anything, obviously put it in the chat and I would be happy to answer it. Otherwise, if there aren't any questions, this week, week 7, we move on to chapter number 5, chugging away through the semester. So as always, make sure that you read chapter 5 in the textbook, and then you'll want to read through the lecture that I created for you. And this one is on identifying good measurement. So we're going to talk about the construct validity of a study's variables, describing different kinds of evidence that support construct validity. So we're looking at how do we measure variables? What are the 3 types of measurements we can use? What kind of scales do we have? what is reliability, and what is validity. Okay, so we're kind of building on the topics that we've proposed of these different internal and external and statistical validities, and how can we look at them a little bit closer, what are the different types within them of how we can measure that. And so make sure you read through the summary or listen to it if you'd like. In the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit more on how do we operationalize stuff, a little bit more on types of validity, just trying to help make it clear. And then on the last page, here are all the key terms that you need to know for this chapter for the next exam, which is next week. Also, make sure that you watch my lecture video on chapter 5 with the PowerPoint slides. So here you go. It's on YouTube, so you can look at some ways to measure variables and reliability and validity. I lecture on that to try and help you to understand it. And then, of course, you have our discussion for this week, which is discussion number 7. So let's take a look at that together. And this is building on the chapter, on chapter 5. So as always, you have my instructions. Make sure you watch my little video where I go over what you need to do and kind of give you some tips. Make sure you're detailed in your responses and think about them as little mini papers like usual. Don't forget to read through your classmates' responses and reply to one of them to get those 2 points of credit. So for this one, what you're going to be doing is looking at a couple of things. So question 1, one of the topics in chapter 5 involves creating operational definitions and the 3 different types of measures that could be used to measure those operationalizations. So I want you to describe how you could operationalize coffee intake using each of the 3 different types of measures below. So if you were using a self-report measure, an observational measure, and a physiological measure, how could we operationalize coffee intake? So consuming caffeine or coffee. Next, what you'll do is you'll go to BuzzFeed and you'll take this little ice cream test. Here's a second option if for some reason the first link doesn't work. You're going to take the little poll on ice cream. And once you've completed it and you have your responses, your results, you're going to answer the following questions. What flavor of ice cream did you get? What did the results say about you? And you're welcome to copy and paste the image and description for this part. That's totally fine. Number 3, do you think that the quiz is reliable? Explain and comment using these as kind of tips. What kind of reliability is relevant for this measure? How could you empirically establish this quiz's reliability? Describe one method you could use to quantify the reliability for this quiz. And then number 4, do you think this quiz is valid? Explain and comment on the bullet below. How would you establish the criterion-related validity of this quiz? So you get to find out your ice cream personality type here that you have, and then you're going to think a little bit about those results, whether it's reliable, whether it's valid, kind of focusing on these bullets, getting a chance to apply the different types of reliability and validity that we're talking about in this chapter. So I hope that's kind of fun and you enjoy the opportunity to do that just a little bit. I will, of course, post the recording of this a little bit later once it has downloaded and then uploaded again to YouTube. So look for that posting of this later, unless, of course, you're watching it now, in which case you found it just fine. I do have a couple of reminders for you, and then, of course, the extra credit question. Do you have any questions for me? If you don't, I'll give you some reminders while I wait, but I do have a couple of quick reminders. First reminder, as usual, same as always, if you could take a moment to double check your subscription status. Again, very few people are subscribed at this point, which is making more and more work for me, so I really appreciate those of you taking the time to do that. It means a lot to me. It saves me some time, so thank you. And secondly, if you're watching this as a recording later, the only way you can do that extra credit is if you are subscribed. So that would be helpful for you as well. The next reminder that I have for you is that our next Twitch live stream, let me put this in the chat. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, October 4th at 12:30 p.m. Okay, so our next Twitch live stream, oops, sorry, I'd added a word or two here, will be on Wednesday the 4th at 12:30. Again, Wednesday is October. I can't even believe that. Sunday is actually October, but it's coming up. I got to get outside and put up the rest of my Halloween lights. I'm a little bit behind. It's just been busy. So those are my reminders for you. I also have the Twitch extra credit question, so let me copy and paste that into the chat for you here. This is the question for this week. So this is the week number 7 Twitch extra credit question, which is what are the 3 types of reliability? I would like you to list and define all 3. So what are the 3 different types of reliability? List and define all 3. And when you're ready to do that, you will head over to Canvas. And since we're in week 7, you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit, number 7 right here. And then up at the top, click on Start Assignment. And that's going to give you the box where you can type your response. And then go ahead and hit Submit. Okay, so once you have done that, you get a thumbs up and confetti. This is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So definitely take advantage of this. Some of you are doing these, which I think is great. I mean, all in all, you can earn quite a bit of extra credit if you're doing these every week. So I'm glad to see some of you taking advantage. Don't forget to get going on this week's materials, which are week number 7. As a quick heads up, all right, if you're looking ahead, we do have our second exam next week. So if you wanted to start preparing for that, you could go through each lecture and look at the key terms on the last page and start preparing a little bit if you would like to start studying. I will obviously talk about the exam next week when we meet for our week number 8 live stream. But if you wanted to get prepared for that and start studying a little bit at a time, remember that the last page of every lecture are all the key terms that you need to know for the test. So that is everything that I had prepared for you. I hope that you're hanging in there and feeling okay about the class and the materials, and that you're staying healthy and just doing well as we, again, get close to the halfway point of the semester. I will hang out for a few minutes here if you do have any questions for me. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. There's a chance of rain on Saturday. Fingers crossed for that. I would love it if it rained a little bit on the weekend. But have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to minimize this, but I will hang out for a few minutes. If you would like to ask any questions, I am still here. Otherwise, thank you so much for those of you who are here with me or watching this later. Thank you. And I will hope to see you all next week on Wednesday. Thank you as well. Have a wonderful day. You hear me talking. I am still here too. Oh, no worries. Thank you for trying to figure that out. I appreciate it. Health, wow, psychological disorders. All right, everyone, it looks like most of you have logged off, so I'm going to go ahead and close this up so I can upload and download. But if you do think of any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for those of you who joined me today. I really appreciate it.